You've seen it before. Someone in their 50s, maybe even in their 40s, suddenly retires. No stress, no panic, just done. And not only that, they stay retired for good. They travel, they spend time with family, they don't worry when the markets dip, and somehow they never seem to run out of money. So how do they do it? It's not just because they made more money, it's not because they got lucky with a stock pick or won the lottery, and it's definitely not because they're living off rice and beans. It's because they followed a very specific set of strategies to create income that lasts, minimize taxes, and structure their financial life with clarity. And here's the good news. You don't need $10 million to do the same. In today's video, I'm going to show you how the wealthy retire early, and more importantly, how they make sure they never outlive their money. If you ever thought, could I actually retire sooner than I thought? This is where you start. Hi, I'm Nathan Sealey, founder of Brass Ring Wealth Management. I work with high-income families, individuals, and business owners to reduce taxes, grow wealth, and build retirement strategies that last not just for 10 years, but for 30 or more. And one of the most common questions I hear is this: how are people retiring early and maintaining the lifestyle they want? Not just scraping by, but retiring on their own terms with enough income to live, give, and travel without fear of running out. That's exactly what we're diving into today. We'll break down the planning moves the wealthy make before they retire, the income structures that they use after they stop working, and how you can apply the same mindset no matter where you're starting from. So let's get into it. These retirees treat retirement as a cash flow goal, not an age. Most people think of retirement as a finish line tied to a number on their birthday. I'll retire at 65, or I'm aiming to 62, or even I just need to make it to 67 so I can get full Social Security. But that's not how the wealthy think. They don't retire because they reach a certain age. They retire because their income plan is ready. It's not about when you retire, it's about how you replace your paycheck consistently, sustainably, and confidently. Here's what it looks like in real life. Wealthy early retirees know exactly how much they spend each year, not just a ballpark, but a detailed inflation-adjusted number. Where that income is coming from, which accounts, what sequence, and how taxes will affect each withdrawal. How to handle what-ifs, like a market downturn, healthcare shock, or rising inflation. In other words, they don't retire because they feel done. They retire because their cash flow system is in place and it has been tested. That might include rental income to cover fixed expenses, investment income to cover lifestyle spending, Roth accounts to create flexibility in high tax years, a timeline for when they draw Social Security, not just when they're eligible. Then you build a retirement around income instead of age, everything changes. Here's why that mindset matters. If you treat retirement like a math problem, it's not an emotional milestone. You stop relying on vague assumptions. You stop asking, can I retire at 60? Do I have enough? And instead, you start asking, how much income can my plan reliably produce each year? How long will that income last under different scenarios? What risks could throw it off, and how do I prepare for those? That's what early retirees do differently. They focus on income replacement, not just account balances. They structure their assets to work like a paycheck, and then they plan from a place of logic, not just emotion. Let's be honest, anyone can retire early for a few years. The challenge is staying retired without going back to work or drastically cutting back. And the people who do that successfully, they're the ones who design their retirement around cash flow clarity, not just a magic number or birthday. These retirees diversify their income sources. Most people rely on one or two sources of income like Social Security and a 401k. But those who retire early, they build layers of income including rental from income real estate, dividends and interest from investments, tax-free income for Roth IRAs, business or consulting income, structured payouts from the sale of business, and withdrawals from traditional retirement accounts. But why does that matter? Because more income sources equals more control. You're not dependent on one account or market performance. You can turn income on and off depending on taxes, markets, or personal goals. It creates flexibility, and that's exactly what early retirees need. These retirees, they also prioritize tax strategy, not just investment strategy. Most people spend their entire working lives focused on growing their money, maxing out retirement accounts, buying the right investments, and chasing returns. But when the wealthy retire early and sustain their lifestyle long-term, there's a shift. They stop asking, how much can I make, and start asking, how much can I keep? because taxes can quietly drain more from your retirement than a bad year in the market. Here's what most early retirees don't realize. Depending on your age and the type of account, you may face a 10% penalty on top of ordinary income taxes. If you take too much income from the wrong accounts, you could push yourself into a higher tax bracket. You can trigger taxes on your Social Security benefits. You can increase your Medicare premiums and reduce the lifespan of your portfolio. The wealthy understand this, so they build a tax strategy into the heart of their retirement plan. Here are a few ways they do it. Roth conversions in low-income years. If they retire before 70, they often have a window of lower income. That's the perfect time to convert traditional IRA dollars into Roth, paying taxes now at a lower rate and avoiding RMDs and taxes later. Withdrawal sequencing. They're intentional about which accounts they pull from and when balancing withdrawals from taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free accounts to minimize their effective tax rate. They use capital gains harvesting in years with lower income. They might sell investments in a taxable account and pay little or even zero on the capital gains. They use donor-advised funds or charitable strategies if they're charitably inclined. They don't just write checks, they gift appreciated assets, set up donor-advised funds, or use qualified charitable distributions to give strategically without reducing taxes. They use asset location. They place the right investments in the right accounts, like keeping high-growth assets in Roth accounts for tax-free growth and income-producing investments in tax-advantaged buckets. This isn't about being aggressive, it's about being efficient. Because the difference between someone who retires early and stays retired comfortably and someone who runs out of money in 78 often is not investment returns, it's taxes. And while you can't control the market, you can control how and when you pay the IRS. These wealthy retirees build flexibility into their plan. If there's one thing I can guarantee about retirement, especially early retirement, it's that things won't go exactly according to plan. Markets change, tax laws change, your lifestyle might change, and so will your income needs. That's why the people who retire early and stay retired build one key element into their financial plan: flexibility. Because the moment of your plan becomes rigid, the risk of it breaking under pressure goes way up. Here's what flexibility looks like in real life. It's not about having extra money, it's about building options into your strategy. This means multiple income sources you can turn on or off depending on tax strategy or market conditions. Access to both taxable and tax-free accounts so you're not boxed in one withdrawal path. Cash reserves or short-term buckets to give you breathing room when the market's down. And having a plan for what to cut temporarily if needed without derailing your entire lifestyle. It's also what allows wealthy retirees to adapt instead of react when things don't go as planned. Here's an example. Let's say a couple retires at 58. They've got taxable investments, Roth IRAs, traditional IRAs, and a couple of rental properties. Then in year 3 of retirement, the market drops 20%. What do? They don't panic sell their investments. They don't need to panic or adjust their lifestyle, even when things get rocky. Instead, they pull cash from their short-term bucket, skip Roth conversions that year to stay in a lower bracket, and lean on rental income and dividends to cover the gap. Because they build a plan with flexibility, they stay the course. Their long-term assets recover, their lifestyle doesn't change, and their stress stays low. Flexibility is also what protects them against inflation. If your entire plan is based on fixed income, rising prices can erode your purchasing power fast. But with growth assets, tax-free buckets, and cash on hand, you can absorb those increases without skipping a beat. Flexibility is the silent strength behind every sustainable retirement plan. It's the reason why some people retire early and never look back, while others retire, get caught off guard, and end up back in the workforce or cutting back drastically just to make ends meet. So if you're thinking about retiring early, don't just ask, do I have enough? Also ask, how adaptable is my plan if things change? Because in retirement, it's not about being perfect. It's about having room to adjust and still stay on track. Wealthy retirees also don't wait until retirement to start planning. If there's one trait I see over and over in people who retire early and sustain their lifestyle long-term, it's this. They don't wait until they're ready to start retirement planning. They start years, sometimes decades in advance. Not because they're overly cautious, because they understand something most people overlook. You don't build a successful retirement by winging it in your final working year. You build it by making strategic decisions early while you still have income, flexibility, and time on your side. Here's what the wealthy do differently. They start asking questions like, what income do I need to replace, not just today, but 10, 20, 30 years from now? How much of that should be guaranteed? How much can be flexible? What accounts give me the best tax advantages later? Where should I be placing my investments now to support my income needs later? They look at retirement like a business owner would look at a transition plan. What will it take to walk away and still thrive? And they break it down into actionable steps. Funding Roth accounts while they're in lower tax brackets, building up taxable brokerage accounts for early withdrawals, investing in real estate to create passive income, running tax projections before they make any big withdrawal decisions, thinking about healthcare needs before Medicare kicks in, and mapping out what they want retirement to actually look like, not just what they're retiring from and what they're retiring to. Here's why this matters. Most people get serious about retirement planning in their early 60s, but if you want to retire early or retire smarter, you need to start thinking that way in your 40s and 50s, because the truth is, early retirement isn't about money, it's about time. It's about positioning, and it's about using the final stretch of your career to set yourself up for flexibility, tax efficiency, and lasting confidence. And the people who do that, they're not guessing when they step away from work. They're stepping into retirement with clarity. Let me say it this way. The sooner you start planning, the more choices you have, the longer you wait, the more pressure from you to put your money on to perform. And that's not a position you want to be in when you're trying to stay retired. So if you're thinking about retiring early, or just want to build a more flexible, tax-efficient plan that supports the lifestyle you want, let's talk. Book a call with me using the link in the description below. We'll walk through your income strategy, your cash flow needs, and how to align everything in a way that gives you more clarity and control. This is your retirement. You've worked too hard to leave it up to chance. Let's create a plan that gives you the confidence to step into the next chapter on your terms. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more real-world strategies to help you retire smarter. I'll see you in the next video. This content is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a financial, tax, or investment advice. Please consult a qualified professional before making any decisions based on this information. Past performance does not guarantee future results.